Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to work with inscribed polygons. And in order to do so, we need to establish a theorem, an idea. And so here's a little circle we got going on. And what I'm going to do is create a chord anywhere within that circle. And from that chord, I'm going to create a segment that is going to represent the distance from the center of the circle to that chord. Right? And of course, if I'm going to create a segment whose length does represent the distance between this point, the center of the circle, and this line, a chord on that circle, I'm going to create the perpendicular distance, because that's the shortest and represents the distance. And so what happens within circles is as follows. If this segment right here, which I'll just call part of a radius, or part of a diameter as well, but if this guy, as long as it runs through the center of the circle, is perpendicular to a chord, then it also ends up bisecting the chord. Okay, and it works both ways. So to put that in words, I would say part of a radius, any part of a radius, if it is perpendicular to a chord, will also bisect. Remember what bisect means? Cuts it in half. That chord. Okay, and it works both ways. In other words, if this little piece right here, which is part of a radius, bisects a chord, then it also has to be perpendicular as well. Okay. Additionally, this little piece right here has a name, and within the context of inscribed polygons, it's called an apothem. And what it is it's the distance from the center of the chord, center of the circle, to a side. Side of what? Well, side of what we will soon be inscribed polygons. Okay? So this guy right here is called the apothem, or apothem, depending on which way you would like to pronounce it. So I'll make that nice and red for you. How about that? Okay, so here's the apothem here. The length of that represents the distance from the center of a circle to a side of an inscribed polygon, which is why it's perpendicular. And remember, if it's perpendicular, it also must bisect that chord or side of the inscribed polygon. Okay, so let's take a look at how we may use that idea. And I'll give you a problem. So let's suppose we have a hexagon with sides, let's say 10 inches, is inscribed within a polygon, circle rather. Okay, furthermore, that hexagon's got to be regular. All right, and for now, we're only going to work with regular polygons inscribed in the circles. And regular, if you recall, means congruent size and congruent angles. That's what it means for polygons to be regular. Okay. So what we're going to be able to do from this is determine A, what's the radius of the circle, and B, what's the length of the apothem. Remember, that's the distance from the center of the circle to the side of the inscribed polygon. This guy is the apothem. Okay, so let's get back to that problem at hand and let's giddy up. Alright, so what we have is we have a hexagon with sides 10 inches inscribed within a circle. So I'll draw that. First going to draw a circle, and then a hexagon 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just like inscribed angles, inscribed polygons have vertices on a circle. And remember, that's a regular hexagon, which means all these 6 sides are congruent. And not only are they congruent, I believe they're all 10 inches. Okay? So all these sides are 10. The length of the chord / sides of the hexagon. Okay? What we're doing is we're looking for both the radius and we're looking for the length of the apothem. Distance from the center to any of those 6 congruent sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little creative here. I'm going to get my swerve on. And from the center, I'm going to create 6 triangles. y6? Well, because that's a regular polygon, I hope it's not a stretch to say that all 6 of these triangles are congruent. So if all 6 of those triangles are congruent, then all 6 of these central angles have to be congruent. Okay, so you got x and x, all those guys are the same, those being the central angles. Now, since there are 6 of them, and they add up to be 360, those central angles are going to be 1/6 of 360, which will be 60 degrees. So that's helpful. So all these little angles in here, oops, have to be 60 degrees. Oh my goodness. Please. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put one 60-degree angle there, and recognize that all these other angles, well, I guess I'll do 60, 60, 60, 60, 60, and of course that's 60 degrees. Now that's helpful. And the reason it's helpful is because there are 2 things I want to find. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little triangle here, and I'm going to redraw it out here. I've got a little more room to work it. So I got to work through those 10, that's a side. Okay? And then that angle up here is 60. So I just took that triangle and I put it right over there. Okay? Now recall that the radii of the same circle are congruent, so I know those are both the same. Those 2 red radii. And what I want to do now is I want to find the following 2 pieces. I want to find this, which is the apothem. Same as this right here. See that? Oh, wow. Okay. And I want to find the red piece, which is the radius, right? This guy right here is the radius right here. Okay? So I have the radius, the apothem. And what we're going to get is, because the initial triangle here, any one of those 6 triangles, is at least isosceles, these 2 sides are congruent, then that altitude has to also be an angle bisector. And so that original 60-degree angle has to be 30 and 30, cut by that altitude. Okay, which, ooh, great. Now I have 2 30, 60, 90s here, which I can use, all right? So my 10 turns into a 5 and 5. I don't really care about this 5, but that 5 I'm going to use. And now I got a little 30, 60, 90, right? The side across from 30 is x, which is 5. Here's my hypotenuse, which is also the radius of the inscribed hexagon. That's going to be 2x. So since x is 5, that's going to be 10. Okay? And the apothem here is across from my 60-degree angle here. Since that's 30 and 90, that's got to be 60. That side's my x root 3 side, since x is 5. And this side's got to be 5 root 3. Okay? So to put that all back into the problem, okay, I take this whole big old triangle here, which is just a 6 of this whole diagram, that little guy. What I get is the apothem right here is 5 root 3. That's this piece here. The radius, any one of these congruent red segments, is 10. Okay, and therefore I've answered my question. Okay. Hope you enjoy this. See you in class tomorrow. The one problem I want you to think about for today, for tonight rather, is this. Here's your homework. So we have an inscribed, let's work with an inscribed square. Okay, so that's a square. Doesn't look like one, a little sloppy, but that's a square. Okay. If the radius is 12, I want you to find 2 things. What's the apothem? The length of it. And 2, what's the side of the square? Okay, that's your problem to think about for tomorrow. A couple different ways to do it. You'd be interested to see how you do it. Bye-bye. Take care. Peace.